The camera panned across the crowded plaza as Emma Chen, CEO of Horizon Technologies, stood on the makeshift stage, her voice trembling slightly despite the confidence she normally exuded in boardrooms. "I don't have a husband," she announced into the microphone, her words echoing across the stunned crowd. "But I'm hoping that changes. David Parker, if you're watching this, please, just one date tonight." The crowd gasped collectively as security scrambled to contain the situation, but Emma's determined eyes searched the sea of faces, looking for the single father who had captured her heart through the most unexpected circumstances. If you're enjoying this emotional journey of love, courage, and second chances, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more heartwarming stories that remind us all that sometimes, the most powerful people are the ones brave enough to be vulnerable. 3 months earlier, Emma sat in her corner office overlooking the Seattle skyline, absently twirling a pen between her fingers as she reviewed quarterly projections. At 38, she had everything society told her she should want: a thriving tech company she'd built from the ground up, financial security, respect in her industry, and a sleek downtown penthouse. What she didn't have was someone to share it with, a fact her mother reminded her of during their weekly phone calls. The board meeting went well, she told her assistant, Priya, who stood in the doorway with a tablet. But Henderson is still pushing back on the expansion timeline. He always does, Priya replied with a knowing smile. Oh, and don't forget you have that elementary school visit this afternoon. The PR team thinks it'll be good optics for the STEM initiative. Emma nodded, suppressing a sigh. Public appearances weren't her favorite part of the job, but she understood their importance. Her company's educational outreach program was something she genuinely believed in, providing technology and mentorship to underserved schools. Today's visit was to Lakeside Elementary, where they were donating a new computer lab. "Cars waiting downstairs whenever you're ready," Priya added before disappearing back to her desk. Emma gathered her things, mentally rehearsing the speech she'd give to the 5th graders about pursuing careers in technology. The same speech she'd given dozens of times before. She smoothed her tailored navy suit, applied a fresh coat of lipstick, and headed for the elevator. The school was a 30-minute drive from downtown, situated in a middle-class neighborhood with modest homes and small businesses. As her driver pulled up to the curb, Emma noticed the aging playground equipment and the faded mural on the side of the building, reminders of why programs like hers mattered. Principal Watkins greeted her at the entrance, an enthusiastic woman with gray-streaked hair and a firm handshake. "Ms. Chen, we're so honored to have you here today. The children are very excited." Emma smiled politely as she followed the principal through hallways decorated with student artwork and science projects. The smell of cafeteria food and disinfectant brought back distant memories of her own school days, before ambition and opportunity had carried her away. "We've gathered the 5th grade classes in the auditorium," Principal Watkins explained. "After your presentation, we thought you might like to see where the new computer lab will be installed." "That sounds perfect," Emma replied, mentally calculating how soon she could be back at the office to finish reviewing those projections. The auditorium buzzed with the energy of nearly 100 10-year-olds, their teachers attempting to maintain order as Emma was led to the stage. She scanned the room, noting the diverse faces looking back at her with varying degrees of interest and boredom. This was the part of these visits that always felt most meaningful, seeing the actual children who might benefit from her company's philanthropy. Her standard speech went smoothly, with practiced anecdotes about her own journey into technology and encouragement for the students to explore STEM fields. As she concluded and opened the floor for questions, a small hand shot up in the 3rd row. "Yes?" Emma pointed to a girl with dark braids and bright eyes. "Did you always want to be a CEO?" the girl asked. Emma smiled. "Not exactly. When I was your age, I wanted to build things. The CEO part came later when I realized I needed to start my own company to build the things I believed in." More hands went up, and Emma found herself genuinely enjoying the children's curiosity. After answering questions about robots, video games, and whether she was super rich, she noticed a boy in the back row, hand half raised as if unsure whether to commit to asking his question. "How about you, in the back?" Emma pointed. The boy lowered his hand, suddenly shy. Do you have to be really smart to make computers?" "My dad says I'm good at math, but I don't know if I'm smart enough." Something about his uncertainty touched Emma. "Being good at math is a great start," she said gently. "But being curious and persistent is even more important. Some of the best engineers I know aren't necessarily the smartest people in the room, they're the ones who don't give up when they face a problem." The boy nodded seriously, and Emma felt an unexpected warmth in her chest at having possibly made a difference to this one child. After the Q&A, Principal Watkins led her toward the future computer lab. As they walked down the hallway, a man emerged from one of the classrooms, arms full of science project materials. He was tall with dark hair showing hints of premature gray at the temples, wearing a button-down shirt with the sleeves rolled up and a slightly harried expression. "Oh, Mr. Parker." Principal Watkins called out. "Perfect timing. This is Emma Chen from Horizon Technologies, the company donating our new computer lab. Ms. Chen, this is David Parker, our 5th grade science teacher and the one who's been championing technology education here at Lakeside." The man juggled his armload of materials to free one hand, which he extended toward Emma. "It's an honor to meet you, Ms. Chen. Your company's contribution is going to make an incredible difference for our students." As Emma shook his hand, she noticed his eyes, warm brown with tiny crinkles at the corners that suggested he smiled often. There was something immediately disarming about him, a genuineness that contrasted with the polished executives she typically encountered. "Mr. Parker has been teaching our students basic coding with just 3 outdated laptops," Principal Watkins explained proudly. "He's worked wonders with limited resources." David looked embarrassed by the praise. "Just trying to prepare them for the future," he said with a self-deprecating shrug. "Most of these kids don't have computers at home, so school is their only access point." "That's exactly why programs like ours exist," Emma replied, finding herself wanting to impress this dedicated teacher. "We believe technology access shouldn't be determined by zip code." "Absolutely," David agreed, his face lighting up with passion. "Just last week, Lily, one of my students, coded her first simple game. You should have seen her face when it actually worked. That's the moment that could change her whole trajectory." Emma found herself nodding, caught up in his enthusiasm. There was something refreshing about his unfiltered dedication to his students. "Dad!" A voice interrupted them as the boy from the auditorium, the one who'd asked about being smart enough, came running down the hall. "I forgot my science notebook in your classroom." David turned. "Ethan, what have I told you about running in the halls?" His tone was firm but affectionate. "Sorry," the boy said, slowing to a walk. He glanced at Emma with recognition. "Oh, hi." Emma smiled. "Hello again." David looked between them. "You two have met?" "She answered my question in the auditorium," Ethan explained. "About being smart enough to make computers." Understanding dawned on David's face. "Ah, so you're the one who gave my son some encouragement. Thank you for that." Emma felt a small jolt of surprise. This was the teacher's son. Looking between them, she could see the resemblance now, the same thoughtful eyes, the same slight furrow of concentration between their brows. "Your son asks good questions," she said. "That's a valuable trait in any field." David smiled proudly, resting a hand on Ethan's shoulder. "He gets his curiosity from his mother," he said, a flicker of something, perhaps sadness, crossing his features briefly. Principal Watkins checked her watch. "Mr. Parker, I should continue showing Ms. Chen the computer lab space." "Ethan, why don't you head back to class?" "Actually," David said, "I was just heading that way myself. The lab is right past my classroom." I could show Ms. Chen if you need to get back to your office. The principal looked relieved. That would be wonderful, if Ms. Chen doesn't mind. Emma found herself nodding before she'd fully considered it. Not at all. As Principal Watkins headed back toward the administrative offices, Emma fell into step beside David, with Ethan walking slightly ahead of them. So you teach 5th grade science and coding? Emma asked. David nodded. Science officially, coding unofficially. I started the coding club 3 years ago when I realized how few of our students had any exposure to it. That's impressive dedication. He shrugged. It's necessary. These kids are growing up in a digital world. Without basic tech literacy, they'll be at a disadvantage before they even start. As they walked, Emma noticed the way he greeted every student they passed by name, asking quick questions about assignments or offering encouragement. It was clear he knew each child individually. Here we are, he said eventually, stopping at a room with outdated desktop computers arranged around the perimeter. Not much to look at now, but we're excited about the transformation. Emma surveyed the space, mentally comparing it to the sleek, state-of-the-art labs at her company. We'll have this completely renovated within a month. New computers, interactive smartboards, 3D printers, everything your students need to get hands-on experience. That's incredible, David said, his expression genuinely awed. Do you know what that will mean for these kids? Some of them have never even used a computer mouse before they come to school. His sincerity was striking. In Emma's world of corporate philanthropy, she was accustomed to polite gratitude and photo opportunities, but David's reaction reminded her of the real impact behind the PR gestures. Ethan, who had been quietly observing their conversation, suddenly spoke up. Ms. Chen, do you think you could come back when the new computers are here? Maybe you could show us how real programmers work. David immediately stepped in. Ethan, Ms. Chen is very busy running her company. We can't expect. Actually, Emma heard herself saying, I'd be happy to come back. Maybe we could arrange for some of my engineers to visit too, make it a proper workshop. The surprise on David's face quickly transformed into a grateful smile that made something flutter unexpectedly in Emma's chest. That would be amazing, he said. The students would never forget it. Emma found herself wanting to prolong the conversation, but her phone buzzed with a message from her driver, reminding her of her next appointment. I should get going, she said reluctantly. But I'll have my team coordinate with the school about the follow-up visit. David nodded. Thank you again, not just for the donation, but for taking the time to really connect with the students today. It means more than you know. As Emma walked back toward the school entrance, she found herself thinking about David Parker and his son, their genuine passion for learning, their obvious close bond, the way David had created opportunities for his students with limited resources. It was refreshing in a way she hadn't expected from this routine PR visit. Back in her car, Emma found herself distracted from the emails waiting for her attention. Instead, she pulled up the project details for the Lakeside Elementary Computer Lab, making notes to expedite the timeline and add several features that hadn't been in the original plan. She told herself it was simply good business to maximize the impact of their charitable initiatives. It had nothing to do with the dedicated science teacher with the warm eyes and his curious son. Nothing at all. Over the next few weeks, Emma found herself unusually invested in the Lakeside Elementary project. She requested regular updates and made several suggestions that expanded the scope beyond what had initially been planned. Her executive team noticed her heightened interest but attributed it to the company's increased focus on educational outreach. Only Priya, who had worked with Emma for 7 years, suspected there might be more to it. Especially when Emma blocked off an entire afternoon on her calendar to personally visit the school and check on the lab's progress, something she would typically delegate to the community relations team. You seem particularly committed to this project, Priya observed as Emma reviewed the final equipment list before her visit. It's an important initiative, Emma replied without looking up. These students deserve the best resources we can provide. Priya nodded, a knowing smile playing at her lips. Of course. And the fact that you've mentioned the dedicated science teacher 3 times this week is purely professional admiration. Emma finally looked up, narrowing her eyes at her assistant. I appreciate passionate educators. It's refreshing to see someone who truly cares about their work. Priya hummed noncommittally. Your car will be ready at 1. When Emma arrived at Lakeside Elementary that afternoon, the construction crew was putting the finishing touches on the renovated lab. New flooring, fresh paint, ergonomic furniture, and 30 high-end computers transformed the once outdated space into something that wouldn't look out of place in a tech startup. Principal Watkins met her at the entrance, practically vibrating with excitement. Ms. Chen, this is beyond anything we imagined. I don't know how to thank you enough. I'm just glad we could help, Emma replied, surveying the space with satisfaction. When will the students get to see it? We're planning a ribbon-cutting ceremony next week. The school board will be there, local media, parents, the works. We'd be honored if you could attend. I'll check my schedule, Emma said, though she had already tentatively blocked off the time. As they discussed details of the ceremony, Emma found herself glancing toward the doorway, half expecting, or perhaps hoping, to see David Parker appear. When he didn't, she felt a twinge of disappointment she immediately tried to dismiss. Is Mr. Parker around today? She asked, aiming for casual interest. I'd be curious to get his thoughts on the setup, since he'll be using it for his coding club. Principal Watkins shook her head. He had to leave early today. Ethan had a doctor's appointment. Nothing serious, I hope. The question slipped out before Emma could consider how personal it sounded. Just a routine checkup, I believe, the principal replied, giving Emma a slightly curious look. Mr. Parker is very involved in his son's life. Has been since his wife passed away 5 years ago. The information landed with unexpected weight. A widower raising his son alone. It explained the momentary sadness she'd glimpsed when he mentioned Ethan getting his curiosity from his mother. That must be challenging, Emma said quietly. Principal Watkins nodded. He's remarkable, really. Never misses a school event or parent-teacher conference, coaches Ethan's soccer team, and still manages to be one of our most dedicated teachers. The students adore him. Emma found herself wanting to know more but restrained herself from asking further questions. Instead, she refocused on the lab, discussing software installations and training sessions for the teachers. As she was leaving, she passed by David's classroom. The door was open, revealing empty desks and walls covered with colorful science posters and student projects. On his desk sat a framed photo of a younger David with Ethan as a toddler and a woman with a bright smile, his late wife, Emma presumed. Beside it was a small, clearly handmade clay pencil holder with "World's Best Dad" painted in wobbly letters. Something about that modest desk with its personal touches affected Emma deeply. In her world of executive suites and corporate achievements, there was something profoundly admirable about a life dedicated to nurturing young minds and raising a child with such obvious care. She continued down the hallway, already mentally rearranging her schedule to ensure she could attend the ribbon-cutting ceremony the following week. The day of the ceremony arrived with unexpected nerves fluttering in Emma's stomach. She'd spent more time than usual selecting her outfit, settling on a less formal blazer over a silk blouse and tailored pants rather than her typical power suit. She told herself it was to appear more approachable to the students and parents. The school had transformed the hallway outside the new lab with balloons and a large banner thanking Horizon Technologies. Students lined the corridor, many holding handmade thank you cards. Emma smiled as she walked through, accepting the cards and complimenting the children on their artwork. And then she saw him, David Parker, standing near the lab entrance, looking more polished than she'd seen him before in a navy blazer over a light blue shirt. Beside him stood Ethan, fidgeting with his collar as if unaccustomed to dressing up. David spotted her and smiled, that genuine warmth reaching his eyes in a way that made Emma's carefully maintained professional demeanor falter slightly. Ms. Chen, he greeted her, extending his hand. The lab looks incredible.